Welcome back. This is the RPA champion, and in today's video, we are going to be looking at data items. You will learn everything there is to know about data items. So to get started, let's open up a process, and to demonstrate, the best way to demonstrate data items is by simply using them. So you will find the data items inside both the process builder and the object builder. Now, it is important to know that data items store variables. They store single variables. Collections, on the other hand, they store tables or multiple variables, but we will get into collections in another video. This video is focused on data items. There is a lot about data items that we should know about. Data items are not just simple placeholder for variable. So let's say I wanted to define a variable in my Blue Prism process. Let's call this and I will make this a integer. So the data type tells Blue Prism that this variable that we have created is going to be a number. There is different types of data variables, as we can see: binary, true or false, or 1 or 0, an image. If we wanted to upload something, so for example, we want to upload an image, we could upload and store an image inside of a data item. We can also have a timestamp, a time, text, a password meaning that whatever we type is going to be protected, a number, a flag, a date and time, and a date. So I was using number. Let's continue with number. So let's put 45. Exposure. Now this is a very interesting feature of data items, and this allows you to do some pretty cool things with Blue Prism. So usually you would set it to none. So this is when you're just creating normal variables that are going to be used in your process, maybe just on the single pages. But let's say you wanted to spice things up a little bit. Let's say that you needed a variable, a global variable, or a variable that you would set once or from the control panel, and that it could be automatically updated inside of all of your Blue Prism processes that are using that variable. Let's say, for example, the link to a web page, to a login to a web page, or the path to a folder. Those change quite often. So hard coding them inside of the processes is not the best idea. In that case, we would use an environment variable. So let's see how environment variables work as well. So right now I have created an environment variable. Now it's telling me that is missing from my environment variables. So what I would need to do is I would need to go to system, and I would find the environment variables here, and I would create a new variable. So let's call this variable, let's call it variable2, and let's call it number, and we will set the value to 34. Now let's go back to our process. Let's add another data item or another variable. Let's call var2, and we get automatically the value from the system variable that we insert. So just to recap, you would go to system, you would go to environment variables, and you would just add a new variable to the list of different variables. In that way, when you would come to your data items, you could just simply access it from here once you set the environment variable. So one more time, we add one more variable. We're going to call it variable 3. We will make this into text. And we go back to our process. Let's add another data item. And once again, let's set it as an environment variable. Let's set variable 3, and we get the text hello. The data type changes automatically as well. And we have imported value from the systems manager. So we have seen how environment variables work, how normal variables used in Blue Prism work. Therefore, it would be something like this. This is a normal variable. Now it is, you should remember that the initial value is the value that you set the variable with, and the current value is the value that when the variable gets updated is updated here, so that you can always compare the initial value that that variable had with the current variable or the current value that that variable has. Now, a few more things regarding data items that you should keep in mind. Hide from other pages process. Now, if you enable this, I will show you exactly what happens. So when we have this enabled, we cannot access this data variable on any other pages. What do I mean? So let's say if we wanted to use a calculation right here, we have all of the different variables that we are using. But if we go to page 2 and if we wanted to use a calculation, we don't have any of the variables from before. So to enable this data item to be used across all of the pages in your process, you will just uncheck this. And there it is, data item 1. So by unchecking the box, I'm able to use the data items throughout the whole process. This is the same in both the process builder and the object builder. Now, that has been quite a few tips and suggestions on how to use data items and the different capabilities that they provide. One last thing that I forgot to mention, that in data items, we wanted to set a hard-coded variable that is just inserted into the database. We would set this to static. There is also session variable, which would trigger this variable, process starts, and ask you for the input. Now let's see this. Let's see this in an example as well. So what does that mean? That means that when this process is going to start, the application should ask me to input the input for that variable. But that is only when the process is triggered. So right now it will not ask me for anything. It is also important to add this variable to the initial variable of your process, therefore, so that the process is triggered with this variable. Is this the variable that we set? Yes, data1. Now, if we publish and run our process, we should be presented with an input. Now let's see if this works. All right, finally we made this process work. Let's just run it one more time, see that it's not going to crash. All right. Now, when we start this process from the control room, we should be presented with a dialog box that is going to ask us if what variable we want to use. Now we need to publish our process. And this is the dialog box that I was telling you about. This is where we would input some text, and that text will be passed back into our process. Now, we are not looking at the functionality, at how it works. I just wanted to show you that the different capabilities that data items provide. I hope this video wasn't too long and that you've learned some quite interesting tips and tricks. If there is something that I missed, please don't forget to leave me a comment or a message below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day.